Welcome back to low power mode.
I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected,
Deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.
Hey, welcome back to low power mode with Breezy. Wow, it's been quite a week. I thought it would be super interesting to talk about a deeper level of what's going on with this Kendrick Lamar album. Dig a little deeper in. Once wasn't enough. So, wanted to talk about Auntie Diaries. There seems to be a lot of controversy and division among fans. So, let's get into it. Music. All right. So, I know a lot of people haven't listened to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers yet. And yeah, just want to tell you, I hear you, I feel you, I understand. Maybe you're not super into Kendrick. Maybe you're so into Kendrick that you need to make sure you have enough time to get into it. So, yeah, respect. Also, FYI for this episode, I cracked the window because it's getting warm in the bay. And so if you hear like little kid shrieks and birds and stuff, that's just because it's outside my window. So, all right. So, Auntie Diaries. All right. So, to catch you up, Auntie Diaries is a song off of Kendrick's new album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. The album has disc 1 with 9 tracks and disc 2 with 9 tracks, and Auntie Diaries is the 6th track on disc 2. And it has been both heralded and talked about as groundbreaking, as well as being criticized for its approach. So I love art like this, and yeah, and I thought it would be really great to talk about it. So taking a sip. All right. So I really wanted to make sure that I read some reviews when I started to look at reviews from the perspective of femmes, or AFAB, assigned feminine at birth, a more inclusive term to talk about all types of women, queer and cisgendered. And so I didn't come up with much, I gotta say. The field is certainly dominated by men when it comes to by AMAB folks. And so yeah, it's been wild, but I was able to read some stuff, and I love being challenged in my thinking. And so I did read this one article from Blavity. Blavity is an online black culture centered news publication. And so this writer for Blavity, her name is Hope Giselle. She wrote an article called Auntie Diaries. Who the fuck was this for? And I read the article and my first reaction was like, but like defensiveness. And then I read it again and I felt like, okay, I understand your point of view. And then I kind of parsed through and I thought there's like a core, like a kind of a core theme that's interesting here. So one of the bigger themes in the album is cancel culture. And that's been a big theme, I think, ever since #MeToo came about, because cis men felt threatened. And we're like, oh, you're going to cancel me because of that one time I sexually assaulted that person back in the 80s or whatever. So this is a dynamic at play, but I think a better way to understand cancel culture is things, is the line between who a person is and then what they create gets blurred and crossed. And when that happens, then we take stock of that person, not just the art. Well, we can. Some people can do that. It's all about this question of like, can you separate the art from the artist kind of thing? And this is kind of where I think the basis of the discussion lies for me. But I'm going to read just a little tidbit from this article. Actually, before I do that, I will say, so if I'm playing devil's advocate to myself, saying that Auntie Diaries is an important song because it's Kendrick Lamar's way of coming from a more advanced view and looking back and seeing the forces and dynamics at play when it comes to gender and Black families, and or just gender and family in queerness and families in general. But oh man, it's so heavy. All right. So during this song, he at one point says, okay, I'm just going to go straight to the lyrics because I don't want to mess anything up. I want to be super, super accurate around this. All right. So we've got verse 1. Okay, verse 2. So when I say the F word, I mean the one associated with the queer community or like gay people. So Kendrick, the lyrics of Auntie Diaries are, back when it was comedic relief to say F word, F word, F word, F word, we ain't know no better. Elementary kids with no filter, however. Okay, and then he goes on. So this is tough, and I think that this is tricky because you can put things in, you can put words in. I can speak on this podcast, and then anyone can take anything I've said and twist it and turn it to what they want. Now, this is not just twist and turn. This is a slur. This is a homophobic slur. But at the same time, I'm not going to act like I never said that word when I was in middle school, growing up around like a homophobic culture, as most of us do in school. Like I've said that word before, and I now identify as non-binary. Like my evolution has been such that now I would never say that word, but also I know a lot of folks in the community who do say that word and use it the same way that a Black person would use the N-word as an endearing term. So there's already controversy within the word itself. But then we have Kendrick Lamar, who is not a member of the queer community, using the word. But I think it's interesting the way he uses this word. Okay, so he's talking about he also flips back and forth between pronouns, like current, proper, correct pronouns for his uncle, and and kind of going back to this line, my auntie is a man, or she. I felt that it was clear that when Kendrick Lamar was saying she, he was thinking about his uncle as a kid. Like, okay, and I'm sure like other family members were like, no, that's your auntie. Like, she just dresses like a man or something like that, So I'm not gonna fault that. That to me seems intentional and creative and not like he's trying to be an asshole. I'm like, don't get defensive, because I love this artist so much. I'm like really, really, really trying to be unbiased. So, all right, then a little bit later on in the third verse, he talks about his cousin who is a trans femme person, and it's about it's about his cousin being in the church and being more devout than even Kendrick, and the priest or the pastor blaming his cousin for the ills of society and shit like that. And Kendrick stood up for his cousin instead of going with the ways of the church. And so it's about this like transformation and changing the way that you see what's good or bad or right or wrong. And so, okay, so we have in the fourth verse, the verse I was talking about was the fourth verse, not the third. Okay, so then towards the end of the fourth verse, Kendrick says, "The day I chose humanity over religion. The family got closer. It was all forgiven. I said them F-bombs. I ain't know no better. Excuse me. Mistakenly, I ain't think that you'd know any different. See, I was taught words was nothing more than a sound, if ever they was pronounced without any intentions. The very second you challenged the shit I was kicking reminded me about a show I did out in the city." Okay, so this is another thing, but so he readdresses the F word as F-bombs within the same song. So this to me is clearly trying to show like, okay, I felt free to say this word and now I don't anymore. Or not now I don't, because he put it on a record. But yeah, I felt like this is the pretense that you need to have. So if we shoot over to the article, Auntie Diaries, Who the Fuck Was This For?, written by Hope Giselle. I'm going to read a bit of this article. Lamar's use of the F word and constant misgendering of his now uncle seem to be intentional. With that said, we can't ignore the blatant disregard for the folks this song has triggered and sideswiped. The fact of the matter still remains that in a song where we detail reasons why white folks can't say the N-word, because of the harm we know it causes, we shouldn't allow bigoted slurs to slide in the name of artistic value. So this part, we shouldn't allow bigoted slurs to slide in the name of artistic value. This is the part that is the trickiest thing that I think a lot of people are navigating around folks like R. Kelly and Michael Jackson. It's this argument around, well, it's good music. Okay, but if what you mean by it's good music means you're going to be supporting this artist, let's say going to see the artist's show, maybe buying a t-shirt, buying a song on iTunes, whatever, then if that artist is publicly known to, be committing egregious acts, is it your responsibility to deal with that artist's personal behavior? And it's wild too, because I feel like Kendrick Lamar is definitely someone who has used sex and sex with with cis women to in white women and all sorts of like cisgender women, as we know, like as far as we know, to be his outlet, almost in this way of like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he did all this for the people, so we're not really gonna talk about how he cheated on Coretta Scott King. So this dynamic is definitely something that Kendrick points to on the album. And I think that his coming into a spiritual awareness around queerness and what that is, what that really looks like, knowing family members and seeing them transition and seeing, okay, it's the same person. It's, yeah, I think it's really powerful. I totally feel for, like, I can definitely, I can definitely understand a listener who's part of the queer community who listens to this song, hears the F word and is like, whoa, like, I don't want to be listening to that on a regular, like, if you're playing an album again and again, I don't want to be listening to that again and again. I totally get that, I totally do. But I think if we're looking at what Kendrick Lamar is saying and his behavior, it speaks way beyond the fact that he used this homophobic slur in one of his songs, if that makes sense. So, trying to act unbiased, but I'm totally biased. I mean, I was glad. I was like, yes, this is awesome. Kendrick Lamar is not trying to be an ally. Let's also draw a line between trying to be an ally and sharing a truth, sharing a personal truth. But the personal truth that he's sharing happens to be around Black queerness, because we think that queerness is like new and strange and weird, but really it's so deeply a part of many native cultures, and having different genders and all of this stuff. Like, this is ancient. This is way before colonialization. So everyone should know and be aware of queerness and do a better job at being able to understand like queerness and sexuality. Like, I just think we need better education around that. But at the same time, everyone's on their own journey. And I think it's cool. Like, we never heard Tupac talk about this shit. Like, it's cool that Kendrick's going there on an album where he's been in therapy and like talking about therapy. Also in this song, he starts it off with an Eckhart Tolle quote, or not quote, it's like a clip from Eckhart Tolle, and he says, "This is how we conceptualize human beings." So it's also like stepping out and taking that broader look. I don't know. I don't know. I want to hold space for people, who are offended. But if we're having a deeper conversation about rap and hip hop and where it's going, and cis men, especially cis Black men, in their trauma and moving past it and embracing, Kendrick definitely is embracing the burden of women a bit on this album and embracing his divine feminine, you know, and I think that that is so powerful for the community and for the culture. So I don't know. I feel like, and also looking at these tour tickets and seeing how everything is sold so quickly, it's like I don't think this is like I don't think this is gonna stop a Kendrick Lamar fan from being a Kendrick Lamar fan. I think this is more the Black queer community being like, whoa, you as a non-queer person can't just go around like using this word. But once again, I would argue that like listen to the song if you haven't. He says it in such a soft tone as well. Like it's not like an Eminem kind of thing where he's like giving it like the like this kind of energy. It's not that at all. It's very reminiscent. It's very looking back and thinking back to that old mindset that doesn't apply anymore. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on Auntie Diaries. I think this is a powerful song. I think that the fact that it sparked so much conversation has been incredible, and yeah, definitely interested to hear your thoughts if you have them on this. So, holler at me, and let's move on to TV. Television. All right, so welcome to the TV section, Low Power Mode with Breezy. We kicked off with All Stars Season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race, the winners season. So if you aren't a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, you're not going to love this next section. If you are a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, specifically All Stars Season 7, and you haven't watched it yet and you don't want any spoilers, I would suggest that you pause here and go watch it immediately because it's phenomenal, and then pick back up on the Low Power Mode podcast. But this has brought me so much joy. I've already seen it. I've already seen the second episode twice, and it's awesome. So if you're into drag queens and it's difficult for you to get to like a local scene, then Drag Race is so much fun. It's every type of person and gender, but you know, primarily cis gay men dressing up as beautiful queens, and all of these queens have won either an all-star a RuPaul's Drag Race regular season or an all-star season. So all of these queens are so already fully developed, fully formed, flawless, so themselves, so charismatic, unique, nerve, talent, dripping. I mean, it's just it's like the Olympics of drag race, and they all just seem like such great people as well. So here are the queens from season, oh god, this is such a mouthful, RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars Season 7 winners. Okay, we've got Monet Exchange from Brooklyn. Monet originates from, is she Trinidadian or some, I think, no, St. Lucia. And yeah, she's got that total like Black New York girl kind of vibe going on. So funny. So, I mean, she does a podcast called Sibling Rivalry with Bob the Drag Queen. She did the pit stop for season 14 of where they talk about each episode of Drag Race on YouTube for the last season. So Monet Exchange is so like beloved in our hearts. The Vivienne, so if you've seen Drag Race UK, then you know the Vivienne was the the very first winner of Drag Race UK. Just stunning, not only stunning sense of fashion, but also hilarious comedian. She did an epic performance of Donald Trump in the Snatch Game in her season, and Michelle Visage said it was one of the best Snatch Game characters in the history of Drag Race. And so just phenomenal, super awesome to have a UK queen in this mix. Evie Oddly, one of my all-time favorites, just always representing like the weirdo queerdo. She she's so she's she's so powerful and strong, but also like soft and vulnerable, and so creative. Just like, I wonder what she was like in art class at school. Like, that must have been wild for the art teacher. Yeah, so we love Evie Oddly. Trinity the Tuck, oh my goodness, Southern Queen, most plastic surgery of anyone on the on the season. She's so fun. She's, again, and like comedic genius. I mean, you think these queens are all about looks and everything, and then they get onto the comedy stage, and it's just like, oh my God, what can't they do? I think that's the coolest thing about Drag Race is, like, if you are any type of performer, any type, you can learn so much from this show, because they go through all the different types of performance practically, and yeah, and get critiques, and so it's fantastic. Shea Coulee, Chicago Queen, just stunningly beautiful. She says her drag is a love letter to Black women. She's one of these super industrious queens who has made an incredible career so far. Walked in like Rihanna, Fenty, Savage shows, and incredible. Raja from season 3. So Raja was, they did, I think the first season was 2009. So Raja won in 2012 or something. So 10 years ago. But Raja is such a legend, has been really embracing, I think, of a lot of the other queens throughout the years. And she does fashion photo review, which is where they like rate the looks from each episode. The RuPaul empire is so, it goes so deep. So Raja, Jada Essence Hall, one of my favorites, the winner of 2020 Drag Race, where she won in her living room because we were fully in the pandemic. She's super fierce, and one of the babies, which is kind of funny. It's like you've got some like really heavy hitters who have been doing their one woman shows and like just really killing it out in the scene. And Jada won among Corona, so that's, I don't know, that's got to be tough. But she's also walked in Rihanna, Fenty fashion shows and done like incredible, groundbreaking things. So there's Jade Essence Hall. And then there is Jinx Monsoon. She won season 5, I believe. And also representing just the quirkiest, weirdest. She's from Seattle. And just, she's kind of she's kind of like quirky, quirky on the eyes. But makes just a stunningly beautiful woman. She has the soul of she was like, I'll be great at being 50. I've been practicing it for 20 years or something like this. So she has definitely this old soul and old campy aesthetic, but she doesn't do it in an annoying way. Like some campy queens are just like, like they feel like it feels like they're at 10 all the time. And not Jinx Monsoon. She has levels, and she is a true comedian. So they just did the Snatch Game, and the Snatch Game is a play off the old Match Game, where I think Match Game was like from the 70s or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so Match Game, they have a bunch of celebrities on, and then they ask them silly questions, and like it's just fun debauchery. And so every year, mostly every season, the queens will have a snatch game. They dress up as characters, and then they play this game with a contestant or two. So it'll be like, for All Stars, it was Michelle Visage and Ross Matthews, and then Rue was the host. It was raucous. Okay, so they released the first 2 episodes on I think Friday, this past Friday, and it's also really fun, like funny little trend that like people are releasing the first 2 episodes. Have you noticed that? I don't know. Anyway, so they released the first episode, and then the second episode they go right into the snatch game. And not only do we get to see all these queens do the snatch game, because another gag of the season is, is that no one's going home, which means that we get all of these winners for the whole time, and it's just like a ranking system instead of voting them off. So we would see less of them. We get to see as much as we want, as we desire, which is a perfect decision. So the gag is that there's not only one snatch game, there are 2 snatch games. So each of these queens is going to dress up as 2 separate characters and do, like 2 versions of the snatch game. What a gift. So some of the characters were phenomenal, and it's crazy because pretty much everyone knocked it out of the park. It's just the level of talent is so high that it's just, you really gotta like gun for the airtime. So, but I want to talk about Jinx Monsoon's performance, because both the queens backstage afterwards and the judges referred to it as a masterclass in the snatch game or in comedy, because it was so phenomenal. Okay, so she did Natasha Lyonne for her first character, but for her second character, she did Judy Garland. And the late Judy Garland, mother of Liza Minnelli. I didn't even know that until like fairly recently. And Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, and I've talked about Judy Garland a little bit on the show before, mostly like pointing to like how fucked up it was that they had to like force her to take a bunch of drugs to make all these movies, and then she got addicted, and then she died really young. So yeah, it's pretty wild. But so Jinx says in the backstage, like not back in the workroom as they're getting ready, Jinx mentions that a friend of hers has blessed her with this wig and to do the late great Judy Garland. So Jinx Monsoon gets up there and starts off with, "It's good to be here. It's good to be anywhere, 'cause I'm dead." Just having everyone in stitches like right off the bat. And then at some point she whips out a microphone and starts doing like this Judy Garland style, like old cabaret style almost. "Don't Be Jealous of My Boogie," which is a goofy song by RuPaul. It was phenomenal. Another character who was phenomenal was, there were so many. This was the best snatch game I've ever seen. So good. But Trinity the Tuck chose to be Leslie Jordan, and he is known for being this short, kind of older white man with a very sweet nature, and comedy, actor and singer, I believe. but gay and short. And Trinity started off by saying, "Can someone give me a boost?" And then she got a boost, and then she like popped up, and it was so good. It was so funny. Towards the end of the Snatch Game, I'm not gonna like replay everything, but towards the end, Jinx Monsoon does another. It was like every single thing that came out of her mouth was hitting. She called RuPaul broom, I think, instead of Rue. And she'd also be like, she'd look straight in the camera and be like, "Is this my camera?" Like just really funny old Hollywood kind of quirks. And she then did this amazing callback where essentially in season 5, during her season, they do a makeover session where they have a partner and they have to make them over. And her person who she was making over, he was like, "I think I killed Judy Garland." And so as Judy Garland, she takes him and she says, "I think there was someone on this show who thought he killed me. Jay, I would like to let you know it wasn't you." You know, like she does this super in joke or like meta thing, and like RuPaul and Michelle looked at each other just cracking up because it's like it was such a funny moment during that season that everyone remembers. And so for her to call back to that from 8 years ago or something, it was so brilliant. It really was one of the like best improvised comedic things I've seen in such a long time, and it made me want to see Jinx's show too. It made me want to like go out to a theater and see her perform. Just phenomenal. These I'm telling you, like, Drag Race is so special because it's inclusive and it also hones your skills as a performer. So the queens come out of it knowing that they gotta sing, they gotta act, they gotta tell jokes, they gotta keep the energy up, they gotta turn looks, they've got to just lay it down. And yeah, all these queens, it's gonna be such a fun season. I really, really, really am so happy that we're in this season, that we get all of this great content from all these awesome drag queens who we love. So I'm gonna end this section here, and we're gonna move right on to film. Movies. Film. All right, welcome back to the film section. So because last week I wanted to talk about the new music videos that Kendrick Lamar has released, but we didn't have time, I want to talk about them now. So the first one I want to talk about is called The Heart Part 5. And it came out about like a week, a little less than a week before the album dropped. And wow. So Kendrick Lamar has a production company called PG Lang, and it always looked very nondescript to me. And they put out a commercial at some point with like Yara Shahidi and like, I don't know, another celebrity in there. And it was like, okay, this is vague and we don't know, but it's beautiful. So, okay. And apparently they have been experimenting with what is called deep fake technology, which is a type of AI, artificial intelligence, that takes, I mean, I don't know how they did this, but essentially what happened was in the music video, it's Kendrick Lamar standing in front of a red screen or a red background. And he has on a white t-shirt and a black handkerchief. And every so often in the song, he transforms from the neck up into one of the following famous black celebrity cis men. Mouthful. So O.J. Simpson, Kanye West, Jussie Smollett, Will Smith, Kobe, and Nipsey Hussle. Kobe Bryant and Nipsey Hussle. And it's wild. I think a lot of us have never seen anything like this before. If you didn't know that it was this technology, you would think, well, but you wouldn't think, because some of these people have passed. So it was kind of like such a mind fuck to see this, because it was like, how? All right. So let me set the scene a little bit more. If you remember Kendrick Lamar's I off of To Pimp a Butterfly, it's a take on an Isley Brothers song. And it's very 70s, very funk rock. And I would say this song has a very similar type of thing going on, rhythmic and musical, like musician musical. And it's classic Kendrick Lamar in terms of his rhyming, his vulnerability. But yeah, this video, as simple as it is in nature, you know, is so complex what he's doing. And it's wild because some points where he switches into that person and that person is rapping, the words, the lyrics that he has written, the way it corresponds with the like deep fake of whoever he's doing is eerie and hits hard. For instance, okay, so he like, you know, squints kind of, and then like opens his eyes and like turns into OJ. It's like a little slow fade transition, and he turns into OJ Simpson. And so let's see, what's that line when he turns into OJ? It is to let, okay, so I said I do this for my culture, to let y'all know what a N-word looked like in a bulletproof Rover. Like, so automatically I'm thinking of like OJ Simpson and the white, you know, car like going down the highway, and right after he murdered Nicole and like all this shit. Then he goes from OJ to Kanye West, and he says, friends bipolar, grab you by your pockets. So it's because we know Kanye is bipolar. It's just like, wow, did he already have this idea in mind? Because if this is his production company who's involved in making this music video, then he could have had this idea visually, or he could have learned about this technology and then written a rap off of what he could do with it. It's just why it's so cool. It's so well done. Like syncing audio to video and having it just hit people. And so the most emotional part was when he deep faked into Nipsey Hussle. And if you don't know Nipsey Hussle, he's a late rapper from LA area, like from Compton area, and was just such a light for the community. He did have that gangster background, but he really brought himself up out the hood and was successful and was building so much for the community. And so it was so tragic when he died. It was like, we, you know, not only did we lose another one too soon, but one who was really making moves for the culture, for the people. So when Kendrick Lamar like morphs into Nipsey Hussle and he says, where is the scroll? He says, as I bleed through the speakers, feel my presence. To my brother, to my kids, I'm in heaven. To my mother, to my sis, I'm in heaven. To my father, to my wife, I'm serious. This is heaven. Oh, to my, you know, it's it's wild. You got to watch it. It's very emotive. It's very, I wonder if I wonder if people who don't even know like how deep the Nipsey Hussle love is would still feel what's happening, like still feel that effect that he's going for with like these lyrics and this presentation of them. But it's wild. And something else I was thinking about was like, what is the through line here? What do all these men have in common? What's going on here? You know, Kobe and Nipsey are no longer with us. Uh I think it's hard to compare. It's hard to like compare them all. I think there's an element of the trials of being a cisgendered black male in society and how it makes you do crazy things, or no, because that doesn't make sense for the ones who have been killed. So I don't know. It's like this really fun puzzle that I'm still trying to figure out. But after listening to Mr. Morale in the Big Steppers, I feel like Kendrick is kind of like trying to reframe how we look at some of these people, and almost asking us to have a more humane look at black men, black trauma, like some of the stuff going on there. I don't know. I would love to read more deeply into this music video, but that was my take on it. I felt like it was super powerful. I love this song. I love the video, and even though some of these men are controversial, I don't know. It's he's such a poet. He's such an artist, and it's like I feel like I'm in the ballpark, but I don't maybe have a complete read on it. But I get what he's going for, and the technology is wild. And so, wow. I'm going to take a moment and then switch to N95. So this is the first music video from the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers album. So see you in a second. All right, I'm back. And this N95 video, okay, let's go into it. So it starts, oh my God. Okay, it starts with, in red in capital letters, "This shit hard," like repeated across the screen. And it's great. It's like a play on words right off the bat, because "this shit hard" refers to the beat, the hard beat, the beat that goes hard, it bangs hard. And this shit hard is in like the position that he's in, his state, his condition, his life, his circumstances. This shit hard. So just off the top, fucking killer. Then there's this image of him being hung like Jesus. Like there's no cross, but imagine Jesus hung at the cross, and it's Kendrick Lamar, and he's got kind of longish hair, like flat ironed hair, and like a white sort of like a white suit, like white pants and a white like jean jacket or something like this. So looking kind of hood, but also looking super biblical because of the way that he's positioned, and he's like hovering over the ocean. And so, damn, I mean, there's just so much to unpack with every image. So that's wild. They do this awesome scene where it's the camera on his so the camera is on a reflection of him, but you can't tell that it's a mirror reflection. And and then someone comes and smashes the mirror, and right as they come, he kind of like flinches a little bit, and so it's not him who's getting hurt, but it's acted as though he's getting smashed to bits. Oh my God, the symbolism in the imagery, just incredible. There's a scene where he's running, and then all of a sudden like 20 people are chasing him, and this shit hard pops back up on the screen. I mean, it's not rocket science trying to figure out this message, but it is visually so impressive and appealing. I wanted to mention that there's two scenes that they shoot in Texas here. One is the Fort Worth Water Gardens. It's this like beautiful like stone kind of water cascading gorgeous situation. And then there's the what is the other one? Kimball. No. Those water gardens. Oh no. Kimball Art Museum. There's another place. It's like a venue. Oh, here we go. So it's the Kimball Museum Renzo piano designed auditorium. So he's just sitting there playing the piano, but the space is just stunning. And both of these images are in black and white. So maybe they're recognizable more in color, but I don't know. It's stunning, gorgeous. And then my favorite shot of the whole thing, because I love a good civil rights era reference. So in the video, they have taken a photo and an experiment and remade it, redone it, reenacted it. Essentially what it is, all right, think the 60s, think the court case Brown versus the Board of Education, and essentially Brown versus the Board of Education was the court case that overturned segregation. So it meant that, okay, now our schools are going to be integrated. Before that, it was separate but equal. So blacks went to the black schools, white went to the white schools, and of course, everything at the white schools, there's way more resources, better everything. In the black schools, it was second class, second rate. So this was an extremely important Supreme Court ruling, and wrapped within this ruling was the doll test. And the doll test was a psychological experiment done by two child psychologists. Okay, so this is so great because this is two black psychologists, husband and wife. So it's Kenneth Clark and Mamie Clark. And so they did a whole bunch of different types of tests, but one of them was the doll test. And it ended up being a huge part of this Supreme Court decision. So essentially what happens is a black kid comes in and sits in a room with 4 dolls on the table. 2 of the dolls have brown skin and black hair, and 2 of the dolls have white skin and yellow hair. And the scientist sits at the table and asks the child a series of questions. So these seem so basic, right? These questions seem very, very basic, but they point to some wild, it points to racism, it points to colorism, it points to all these underlying subconscious messages that we get in society. So I want to read the questions though, because I think this is such smart. This is very smart. Not to say that this didn't have its flaws, but this was very smart. So they asked the black kid, give me the doll that you like to play with. Give me the doll that is a nice doll. Give me the doll that looks bad. Give me the doll that is a nice color. Give me the doll that looks like a white child. Give me the doll that looks like a colored child. Give me the doll that looks like a Negro child. Give me the doll that looks like you. So they would record their responses, tally their responses, and all of that. And then for the give me the doll that looks like you, this was rough. Essentially, they after they tallied all the responses, they found that they did this test from kids from the South, kids from the North. So that was kind of similar findings. Some of the numbers, and I'll include this article if you're interested. 67% indicated that they preferred to play with the white doll. 59% thought that the white doll was nice, and only 17% thought that the white doll looks bad. In contrast, as high as 59% of these children indicated that the brown doll looks bad. So, and all of these children were black. So it's really upsetting because it points to like the messaging. And with this last question, give me the doll that looks like you, the children would break down and cry, storm out, be inconsolable, and this is what led them to conclude that color. This is a quote from the article. Dr. Kenneth Clark would later recall and conclude that, quote, color in a racist society was a very disturbing and traumatic component of an individual's sense of his own self-esteem and worth, end quote. So this experiment was extremely important. And if you Google the experiment, some of these classic images will come up. And one of these images is this young black child, and they're holding the black baby doll and they're holding the white baby doll. And you see his hand pointing to the white baby doll. So in the Kendrick Lamar video in N95, they have just like a 2 or 3 second moment where they have that same angle. So the camera is behind the dolls and the child, and you see the child point to the white doll. So very classic reference to the separatism and the racism in our history in this country of like why things are the way they are, like the systems. And so, yeah, it spoke to me seeing that in there. And there's also this scene in the music video where there's like a kind of like an unspecified homie of Kendrick, who essentially what happens is like they both kind of like walk down this hall together, but the homie is literally hanging off of Kendrick. So he's rapping and doing his thing, and the homie's kind of like hanging onto him. And so with this simple body language and simple like simple movement, the message is so clear. He feels that people are chasing him, looking to him as Jesus, hanging on to him, wanting his money and everything. And the song is called N95. It's a mask, right? Like he wants to put on this mask, filter out people. And so it's such a good song, music video. Oh, it's so good. I also love this shot of him on a payphone, like in the middle of the street outside, just kind of like this lone payphone on the phone to God, to whom we don't know. But yeah, another image that just gives you the message. And then they end too with like some great like nighttime black and white black skateboarder footage, which I loved because, you know, I'm super into skateboarding and like that kind of thing. So this just hit all of the notes, all of the heartstrings. Between the Heart Part 5 and N95, we got such good quality Kendrick Lamar music video. We got a great quality album. The album's causing conversation. I mean, yeah, it's so cool. So I want to end that here. definitely go check out those videos if you're a fan of Kendrick Lamar or you want to see something artsy and badass. And let's roll on to our final section. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself.
Check in with yourself.
All right, so thank you, everyone, for letting me completely geek out on everything Kendrick Lamar. You know, I wish I could say, like, my favorite artist is another but like my favorite person in music is another like non-binary, you know, black person or whatever, but my favorite rapper is Kendrick Lamar, and I'm not afraid to say it. So thank you so much for geeking out. I'm happy to hear if you've been listening also to what's been coming out. I'm happy to hear of your thoughts and your opinions as well. Yeah, it definitely feels like we're in this part of the year where things start to look up, the weather starts to get warmer, it starts to get into summer mode, and so it's exciting. I've had some really nice opportunities here in the Bay in audio, in the field of audio engineering, and I remember coming back from school, coming back from Berlin in 2016, and living in LA and feeling like I was never going to be able to get into a studio, never, because there'd be so many other people who are more qualified than me, and so many, like twice as many people who are more confident than me. And I would write some emails to some studios and never send them. But now, the foot is in the door, you know what I mean? And it's 6 years later. So it's just wild the way that life happens sometimes. But I think also when you choose to try to heal yourself and focus on your health, that is a huge factor too. So another update with me is that I've been going through some doctor's appointments and getting prescribed some medications that have been helping me a lot with managing the pain of my condition. So very exciting to think about a more able future. And yeah, also just growing so much and learning all the time my needs and how to say no and all of those things that I did not grow up with. And speaking of that, I want to let my Breezy know that yeah, I'm about to leave for Berlin to do this awesome little tour. For the last week of May. Me and my mom will be there, so definitely come through if you're around. And with the podcast, I would love to do a little something. I would love to do a whole episode, but I don't want to. I want to manage your expectations and say you will in the least get a performance video, but it may be such that I'll need to rest my voice, and would it be a good idea to do a podcast episode? So all the factors will be considered, but giving you a heads up now. Thank you again for your support, and yeah, it's gonna be a great summer. So hope you're feeling the power of the possibilities, and catch you next time.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.